guys, welcome to week 2. This week we're going to be working on harmony. Last week we worked on how to create a good melody, and this week we're going to write a harmony for that melody using what we call first species counterpoint. What is first species counterpoint? That means that the rhythms are the same in the harmony as they are in the melody. So if you have a quarter note in the melody, you need a quarter note in the harmony. Everything is at a 1-to-1 ratio. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to start talking about different types of intervals and different types of harmonic motion and figure out a good way to harmonize your melody. So we're just going to start talking about intervals here. So here are what we call simple intervals, okay? And we're talking about harmonic intervals. Last week we talked about melodic intervals, you know, like one note to the next. All of these melodically, it's all the same note. So there's, you know, it would be silly to talk about that. So we're talking about two notes now playing at the same time. So what's the distance between those notes? So we have a unison, okay? That's when two C's are playing at the same time. That's a second, okay, because it's a C and a D, so we call that a second. Okay, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and I accidentally right-clicked, a seventh, and an octave. Okay, now we also have compound intervals. Compound intervals are larger than an octave. So if we have an octave here, we can have a compound interval of going from C down to B, and then C down to A, C down to G. Oops. So I'm using note flight here. It's not usually what I'm used to. I haven't done a lot of note flight, but I wanted to use note flight because it's free to use for 30 days. You can get note flight premium, and so you can use this exact software that I'm using right now. Just sign up for an account. You can get a premium note flight account. So let's start talking about these types of intervals. So we have some intervals called perfect intervals. That's going to be the unison is a perfect interval. The fourth is a perfect interval. The fifth is a perfect interval. And the octave is a perfect interval. Perfect interval, perfect interval, perfect interval, perfect interval. Okay? Now we have dissonances. The second right here is a dissonance. Okay, let's hear what that sounds like. At the same time, we get that crunchy sound, okay? Do you hear that seventh? That's also a dissonance, okay? And then the perfect octave. Now, harmonically speaking, this might be strange because you might not hear it this way, but the fourth, for the purposes of what we're doing right now, the fourth is also a dissonance. So the second is a dissonance, the fourth is a dissonance, and the seventh is a dissonance. We are not going to use those intervals this week. We are only going to use perfect intervals, perfect except for the fourth, and we're going to use mostly imperfect consonances. That's going to be the thirds right here and the sixths right here. Okay, so what do we do about compound intervals? Compound intervals are treated the exact same as their simple counterpoints. So if we have a C and a B here, we just kind of remove an octave. So C to B, we just pretend the C's down here. So it's going to be the same as the second, even though it's technically a ninth. Or a ninth. And this one is going to be a tenth. We're just going to treat it the same as a third. Okay, because if the C were down here, it'd be A to C, that's a third, fourth, fifth, etc. You get the idea, right? Okay, so these are the different types of intervals. We know which intervals we're going to use. We know which ones we're not going to use. Primarily, we're going to be using thirds and sixths. Okay.